And I'm very excited now to have Dr. Amber Sakuda here in the studio. And we're going to be addressing a lot of important issues that we all are shocked when we hear about the statistics about suicide. And of course, you are very, very concerned as a psychiatrist, as the whole world is. But then there's this issue of what do we do about it? And I assume that one of the things you wanted to do about it was to join with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention on doing an awareness walk.
Yes, that's correct. And Cindy, thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. Yes, so the issue of mental health awareness and suicide prevention, that is something that I deal with every day in my practice. I see people suffering with mental health issues, and a lot of them feel like they're suffering on their own and that people can't understand what they're going through. There's a lot of stigma still in our community. So that's a big part of why we want to do this walk. So one of the big barriers for people getting help is that that stigma is there. They're okay going in to check and see if they have pneumonia or to deal with chest pain or headaches. But when it comes to mental health, there's still kind of a block, and people think it's not okay to ask for help, but it really is.
I'm so glad you brought this up because that is really a key point. And a lot of people don't understand. And I don't think that you can even have compassion or empathy because you don't know what it's like for these people and what they're going through. And also on top of that, which makes it difficult, is the huge range of mental issues that are out there, which can go from bipolar to psychotic to suicidal to depression to there's so many elements. You can't just put one name under what someone's going through. And that's why it's so key to get help,
Yes.
because there are things and there are ways to help, and I think that's really important for people to realize that you're not alone. There are people out there who can help.
Absolutely, and people are always surprised to find out that 1 in 5 adults in America suffer from a mental health disorder, from a mental illness.
That is shocking.
They aren't alone.
They are not alone. 1 in 5. That's huge.
Yes.
And of course, we bury it in so many ways. We cover it up, but it comes out. Eventually, it will seep out unless it's addressed, right?
It's hard to take care of our physical health if we haven't addressed our mental health. So.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Well, this walk is happening on September 28th at Keopuolani Park, and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention their site is AFSP. Again, that's obvious, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, afsp.org. And if you go there and then put /Maui, you can find out about this. This is a great step, and I know you were very active in wanting to work on this with Tiara, right?
Yes. Tiara Agdepa and her family members. We're all working hard to get this walk going. There was a previous walk in 2014, and the amazing Leslie Hiraga had started that walk. And there are various walks across the state with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, but we wanted to bring it back here to Maui no Ka'oi and get it going again. So yes, the walk will be on September 28th. People can start showing up around 8 o'clock to register for the event. We'll have some opening remarks at 8:30, and then the walk will begin around 9. We'll also have a resource tent, so the event will close at 1, but while the walk is going on and after people are done, they can come check out our resource tables.
Is that going to be held in the kind of near the YMCA, or where's the starting base where you're going to be doing?
So near the children's playground, off to the side of that, I think to the right, if you're walking in from the parking lot, there's a big grassy area kind of near the backside of the MAC.
Over on that side where the soccer field kind of is back there.
Yeah, so we'll be down there. And yeah, we'd love to have people to register. We get more resources for Maui. The more people that register, if people can't make it that day, they can register to be virtual walkers.
I like that.
Yeah. So if you can't sit in the sun, but you still want to participate and you love this cause and you want to help a friend or a family member or just be part of the solution, then please register for the walk, whether you're in person or virtual. You don't even have to pay to register. You can just show that you're in support of this cause.
Well, that's huge. I've never heard of that before, where you can actually be in support and not even have to pay anything, it is huge. And I have a friend, Jessie Close. I just talking to her on Sunday, and she actually started me in radio when I was young. And I didn't realize when I started, because she was young and I was young, I didn't realize at that time that she was bipolar. I don't think she realized till a few years later. And her sister is Glenn Close, and in support of her, started something to change. I'll get the name right. Give me a little time, I'll remember it. But the idea was, and she went with an amazing man who is a major producer, Ron Howard, and she wore a I'm bipolar T-shirt. Her son is schizophrenic, wore I'm schizophrenic, and they went to Grand Central Station, and he recorded, Ron Howard's huge, and he recorded a PSA right there with all of them wearing these T-shirts to make, awareness. Don't be ashamed, and bring change to mind. That's it.
Yes,
and
bring change to mind.
And it's really, she's had to fight this stigma too. And the thing is, a lot of people are not aware of, is it can be inherited. It can be in your DNA. And
yes,
she
these
found
things
that
run in
out.
families, for sure.
And when you find that, it's like, wow, you think it's you personally and that you feel guilty or you feel like hiding it, but it can go from generation to generation, and we're not even aware of that.
Right, you're absolutely correct. And I think that perpetuates the stigma when people feel like it's their fault or they've done something wrong and this is their punishment. I also see a lot of people who just don't realize that, being depressed and crying every day and feeling, like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, that's their normal. So they sometimes don't even realize that they can feel so much better, and people come in and they say, I have a great life. I have no reason to feel depressed, but yet I feel this. And that's how we know this is an illness. This isn't something that people do wrong and that they deserve. Not at all. It's an illness like any other physical ailment. It's just that our brain and behavior are what change. And our mind is pretty much our most complex organ in our entire body. So you can imagine that that's why there's so many different ways in which it can go wrong, from having bipolar disorder to schizophrenia, an eating disorder like anorexia, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorders like panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. I mean, there are just so many ways in which the mind it can get sick, and there is help. And that's the amazing thing. People can get better.
That is the key, but there's also this element we've seen which is staggering, which is the amount of people who do have post-traumatic stress. I mean, we've been seeing policemen, suicides and first responders, and of course the saddest part is veterans when they come back from war, killing themselves, and there's more people. I heard the fact that there's more people who kill themselves and that are victims of post-traumatic stress than there are people who have died in the wars. It's a huge, huge issue, and it's sad because these are people who are suffering after effects that a lot of times they, again, if you're feeling like you're someone who's gone to war and that you're in the military, you shouldn't be able, you're told you should face these things, face all your issues, and they don't feel like they need to express that. But we've been seeing, we cannot hide the fact that young people now, teenagers now are committing suicide. So when you see all these things as a psychiatrist, I mean, how do you address the fact that we're seeing so many more suicides now?
Yeah, so I think, part of it is battling the stigma, and that's a big reason we're doing the walk. Part of it is a lot of education so that people understand about these different mental health conditions and about the treatment that's available, and that there are all kinds of different treatments. I think some people are very worried that they'll come in and right away be prescribed a medication, but there are a lot of non-medication interventions as well for mental health conditions. So, if that's part of the issue, then we help people to understand there's a whole array of treatments. There's a lot of self-help things that people can do, and we help people to get comfortable about talking about it. For instance, Cindy, a lot of people are worried that if they ask if someone's suicidal, that they'll make them more suicidal. Now, that is a myth. That is not a fact. In fact, if we don't ask, we miss an opportunity to help someone. So if people start to see warning signs, like a person is shutting down, isolating more, giving away their belongings, saying goodbyes, that's a big red flag. That should be a red flag that maybe that person is thinking about suicide, and we need to ask. That's one of the best ways to help us, to ask and to provide support, right, to be a good listening ear. There are also some very good resources out there. There's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's 1-800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-8255. And that's one resource people can go to if they're feeling down and they need help or they're contemplating suicide. There's also the crisis text line, and people can text TALK to 741-741 to also get help if they want help anonymously. If they can't pick up the phone and talk, they're not in a safe environment to say things verbally, they can text. Locally here, we have the Crisis Line of Hawaii, which was formerly known as Access Line. On neighbor islands, people can call for help at 1-800-753-6879. And there are many other resources. There are also some amazing organizations like the Mental Health America and NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we have branches here on Maui that provide support. Danielle Bergen over there at Mental Health America, she does a ton of trainings on mental health first aid, suicide prevention, bullying. We have a Prevent Suicide Maui task force. So
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about most of those.
Yeah.
Wow, there's actually Prevent Suicide Task Force here in Maui.
Yes. So they
and
look
who's
at the
in charge of
stats.
that?
So there are many people who are involved in that, like Danielle Bergen at Mental Health America, Dr. Adam Coles, who's the clinical director at Maui Family Guidance Center, Dr. Santo Triolo, a psychologist in private practice, and many others who sit on the task force.
It's so good to hear that there's all of those resources available. I kind of feel I've heard parents say that they were not even aware that their teenage child had issues that they didn't know, and it's kind of easy to see a child. Well, I don't even want to call them a child because they're a young adult, but you're playing on your video games, you're doing your social media, and you're kind of focused on that. So a lot of parents haven't been able to get to that communication point. Sometimes, unfortunately, too late, realize that there's an issue and are devastated when they find out their child had committed suicide. And there's many, many issues that could be behind that. Sometimes bullying, sometimes feeling like they don't fit in. Sometimes it's real mental health issues that haven't been addressed, etc. So what you gave out some key points, and I want people to really listen and be aware that this is something that people need to talk about, that they need to have a conversation, that there's a safe environment without judgment for parents to actually bring this up in a way, that is not going to be something that drives the child, unfortunately, further away. How do you have these conversations as a psychiatrist? How do you suggest that parents begin that conversation?
I think, that first step of just expressing concern, saying, hey, I love you and I notice something's different. I'm worried. I want to make sure that you're that you're healthy, right? Just like if we thought our child or our young adult family member had broken their leg, we'd say, hey, do you need some help? I see that something looks wrong. I want to help you, right? It's a lot easier for people to see what the suffering is if someone has a cast on their leg.
That's right.
But we don't put casts on our head when we're suffering with mental health issues. So the best way is to kind of say, hey, I love you and I'm concerned, and let's go see a professional. I don't know. I'm not sure, but let's get some professional help, right? So people feeling okay about having that conversation and saying, yes, just like we go to the doctor for a broken leg, we're going to go to the doctor to make sure that your brain's not broken, that your feelings aren't broken, because I care about you and I love you that much. And so making that safe space to say, yes, it's okay. No, there's not stigma. This is an amazingly important part of your health. And yes, if there's something wrong, we're going to get treatment for it. We're going to do our best to help you.
Those are great suggestions. And do you see sometimes with young people that a breakup, if they have they're in love, there's a breakup sometimes, or if there's issues with trying to overcome addictions, do that sometimes trigger things in children?
That can play a role, both for children and adults. So some people, when they're struggling with their mental health, and then there's a stressor like a breakup or losing one's job, those can be times that kind of trigger someone to all of a sudden start thinking about suicide. But also having a health condition like major depressive disorder, one of the symptoms of that is thoughts of suicide. So that can tell us, wow, this is a significant case. We need We need to make sure we provide treatment. And I think, something that families can do if they're worried about a loved one possibly being suicidal after something like a breakup or a stressor, one thing they can do is, again, that first part, the ask, right? Don't be afraid to ask. It's not going to make someone suicidal, but gosh, that's the best way to find out if they are, right? So to ask, hey, are you having any thoughts of ending your life? Are you feeling depressed? Some people, it's hard to tell. They might fake it. They're smiling. They're doing activities. But inside, they just feel like, the weight of the world is on them. There's no way they can get through this. They can't think of any solutions. If a family member is thinking about suicide, it is great to get help by calling one of those numbers. If it's something that's, they're worried about might happen right now, call 911, go to the emergency room. It's something that you want to take seriously, making sure that there are no firearms in the home, making sure that the house is safety-proofed, that kids don't have access to pills or other means.
Those
That's
are all
important
good
thing.
points, absolutely. Sometimes do you see, as people try to get off addictions, unfortunately these days we hear so much about opioids.
Yes.
But there's lots of addictions out there, as you know, and sometimes there can be a swing chemical results from also trying to get yourself better.
Yes.
So there can be things that people aren't aware of that happen when you're trying to take steps. And I guess that even when you're trying to do that, it's good to reach out for help as well. Because it's terrible to see all these deaths by opioids,
Yes. A lot of people are trying to self-medicate. They're not sure what to do. They don't know how to ask for help or where to get help. Maybe they have insurance, maybe they don't. But it is very common that people will self-medicate with alcohol or opiates or other drugs. And until they know that there's help, it's very hard for them to quit sometimes. And so, it's great that we have things like AA, NA, the needle exchange, harm reduction. There are a lot of things out there, ways that people can get help for that. And when they feel ready to address their mental health conditions, whether it's addiction, PTSD, depression, all of the above, they're welcome to come in too, right? To see a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a licensed mental health professional. There are a lot of ways people can get help. And addiction can be a tough thing because somebody might be struggling with depression, and then when a substance is on board, like alcohol, they're not thinking as clearly. So sometimes they, ordinarily wouldn't want to kill themselves, but once that substance is on board, their brain isn't thinking as clearly, and they might do something that they otherwise wouldn't.
Very good point. And you also mentioned that I know we're talking, if you're just tuning in, with Dr. Amber Sakuda with the Walk to Fight Suicide. It's happening at September 28th at Keopulan Park, and it's the Maui Walk in coordination with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. There's also once-a-month meetings that are held by Leslie in Lahaina that people can go to, which might be good for people to know about as well.
Yes, so Leslie has some suicide bereavement support group meetings, and that's at the UH Maui Education Center in Lahaina on 60 Kenui Street. And the meeting times are typically on the fourth Thursday of the month from 5 to 6:30 p.m. And, that's for people who are struggling with the issue of suicide, who maybe lost a friend or a family member to suicide, or they've been affected by suicide in some way, and they need some help and support in grieving. So that is definitely a good resource as well that we have here on Maui.
Well, I know you're very, very busy and have a lot that you do to help, and I thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for taking on the promotion of Walk to Fight Suicide that's going to be happening here. And it's September 28th. Go to afsp.org/Maui. Is it okay if I give out your number as well?
Yes.
870-1093. So thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today.
I'm glad to be here, and thank you so much, Cindy, for getting the word out and helping spread awareness and fighting stigma here on Maui.